Hello, my name's Karen Barbito, and I'm the Program Director for Support After Abortion. Welcome to the second episode of the Healing Network. I'm Karen Barbito. I'm your host, and you're in for a good show today. Before we get started with all the wonderful things that you're going to hear, and before I introduce our guests, I just want to tell you a little bit about what happened in our last broadcast last week. We had two really courageous women post through Facebook that they were struggling after their abortion. And we're just so thankful for them. I had my team standing by who was able to talk to them right away and get them connected to healing and hope. And so today, while we're interviewing our guests, there may be some of you out there that have been impacted by an abortion and have never spoken to anybody about it. Or you may know somebody like that. And we want you to know that you can reach out on Facebook right now during this broadcast, and our team will respond to you. And if you prefer to go to our website instead, you can contact us through our website. It's www.supportafterabortion.com, or you can call us at our Hope line, which is 844-289-4673. Again, that's 844-289-HOPE, and those digits are 4673. So if you haven't gotten your bottle of water yet or your paper and pen, take just a moment to run and go do that while I give the people that are watching a brief introduction or a brief history into who Support After Abortion is. It was in 2017 that Support After Abortion was birthed. We were a program of a pregnancy center in Southwest Florida. And as was typical at the time, we used a Bible study that we offered twice a year for maybe 4 or 5 people per each group. So we were helping about 10 pregnancy center clients every year. And then we thought we were doing pretty well. We were connecting with those people that were hurting, that were coming through our doors. But then the executive director at the time heard the research, the statistic that said that 50% of the abortions are performed on somebody that's already had one. And we suddenly realized that 8 to 10 every year was not good enough. And so we did some more research and we said, what can we do to make it more convenient for people to connect with us? You know, we found that maybe some people didn't want us to know who they were. They wanted to remain completely anonymous. So the way they could do that was by text or email. And we found that others their schedule just might not be suitable for them to come and meet in person with somebody. So we started doing virtual groups. And over the years, we've just grown exponentially, especially through our partnership with the movie Unplanned, when they used us as a resource at the end of the movie for those who, after watching the movie, wanted to reach out for help. So we just developed this options-based model. And so that's one of the reasons that we're having these live Facebook events, is so that we can introduce you to all the great after abortion providers that we've linked arms with, that we make referrals to, that you may not know about, and you should know about them because they provide awesome services. So the reason that we're holding these Facebook Lives is because we want to collaborate with agencies around the country, and we definitely want those that are out there hurting after abortion to know where to go for help. So another reason I just want to explain to you why I'm sitting in this chair. I never, ever expected that I would be doing Facebook Lives. This is just so out of my comfort zone. But the reality is that I'm qualified to sit in this chair. You know, I did just about everything wrong that a person could do in life. And one of those things that I did in college was had an abortion myself. And I didn't give much thought to it at the time because I wasn't pro-choice. I wasn't pro-life. I was pro-me. And I was just trying to get rid of a problem. It wasn't until many years later, when I couldn't have children, that the reality of what I had done really smacked me in the face. And for decades, I really struggled with it. Didn't know who to talk to about it. Didn't know if there was anywhere for me to go to talk to somebody about it. And so it wasn't until I went through my healing that pain and that shame and that regret and that anger and that anguish and that hopelessness was lifted for me. There is hope after abortion. You can be fully restored. So I just wanted to let you know that that's why I'm sitting in this chair. And again, if you are struggling with an abortion, there's people here to help you right now. So let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect from this broadcast. We have two really great guests. We have Life Perspectives with us, and we have Colleen Friedenberg. She is the CEO and founder of Life Perspectives. And then we have one of their coordinators, Trisha Lewis, with us today. And what we're going to talk about with them today is we're just going to find out how Life Perspectives came into being. They're going to share their mission and vision statement with us today. We're going to find out how Trisha, who was the director of a pregnancy center in California, heard about Life Perspectives and how that organization brought value to that pregnancy center. We're going to talk a little bit more about us and why we're doing these shows, our mission and vision statement, and our core values. So you want to stick around to find out who we are and why we do what we do. And then we're going to talk specifically about their reproductive grief care training, which is really big for them. The organization has evolved over time from being a website where people can go anonymously and kind of tiptoe into their own healing. And from that, I think they've birthed out assisting medical professionals with training on how they can interact with those that come into their contact that have been impacted by abortion. And just give them the language that they could use to help those people get directed to the right people. And then now I know that they're in colleges and they have curriculum. So we're just going to hear a whole lot about them. Let me now introduce you to them. In the middle is Colleen Friedenberg. Can you give a little wave, Colleen?
Hello.
Okay. Colleen is the president and CEO of Life Perspectives. And here is a little bit of biography on her. Having experienced reproductive loss herself, Colleen founded Life Perspectives with the vision to facilitate healing around the world. Today, that vision continues to be fulfilled in Life Perspectives international outreach. Colleen's passion is unwavering. She is continually inspired at Life Perspectives by the individuals who trust us with their stories and the professionals and leaders who are motivated to help them. Thank you for being here, Colleen.
Oh, thanks so much for having us. We love what you do.
Thank you. We love what you do too. And then there's Trisha. Trish, can you give a little wave? Okay, thanks. Trisha is based in Nashville, but loves to develop ongoing relationships with individuals and organizations wherever they may be. As a Life Perspectives instructor and former pregnancy clinic director, it's her joy to work with organizations and help them better serve their community in a practical and compassionate way. For Trisha, the best part of her job is offering a safe place for others to share their story. Trisha is the Reproductive Grief Care Certification Coordinator at Life Perspective.
Yeah, you did
it. Thank you. That was a mouthful. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So let me just feature this little graphic that we have just in case not everybody out there can see it or read it. It says Life Perspectives offers a safe place without religious or political affiliation for those impacted by miscarriage and abortion. That's beautiful. All right, you ready to jump right in, ladies?
Absolutely.
Okay. The first question is going to go to you, Colleen. Could you tell us a little bit about the history of Life Perspectives and what prompted you to start this organization?
Well, I, like you, Karen, have a personal experience with reproductive loss. And so really that is how my journey began. Really suffering in isolation alone. At first thinking maybe there was something wrong with me because I wasn't aware of anybody who struggled after making the decision to have an abortion. And then in time, fearing people's judgment. How would they react to me? But at some point I became so desperate in the pain that I was feeling. And I know that everybody's experience is going to be really different. Mine happened to be one where I had very extreme emotions regarding this. But when I was finally desperate enough to reach out for help, I found that, first of all, fortunately, there was help available for me, and that people responded with compassion and wanted to support me. And throughout that healing journey, I came from the point of, at first I'm thinking of, I'm isolated in my own pain, And then you begin to perceive that other people may be in pain or struggling or confused, and thinking, how do we reach out to them? How do we let them know that they're not alone? And that there are people who want to support them, who want to accompany them, and who aren't making any sort of, we're not saying that there's a particular way that you should respond. We just know that it's a significant life event. It's something difficult, and we want to be there for them. And so for me, that's how all of that started. And then thinking of the high numbers of people who every year experience an abortion. So for men and women, there would be 2 million really every year if there's 1 million abortions. And then all the others that surround them, family members and friends, if they know about it, who may be impacted by it. And thinking that there's such a small percentage that actually talk about it or reach out for help. And thinking, reflecting back upon my experience and thinking of those early years, was just thinking, well, they probably also fear people's reaction. They don't know what to expect. So could we create an anonymous online environment where people could come and learn that they're not alone, and they could begin to do some activities and things that would help them in their grieving process? And so you had talked about the website, abortionchangesyou.com. That's how that started. And as we read those stories of men and women, as they began to post them and they were choosing the emotions there, that every time someone entrusts your story with you, I just feel like that's the motivation of thinking, like, how can we reach more? How can we do that? So that was the genesis of Life Perspectives. And we just are focused on how do we create an safe environment where people feel like they can share their stories, they can be accepted just where they're at. And then how do we equip others to receive them?
Yeah. Thank you for that. And we are going to talk about that equipping a little bit later in our interview. So thank you for that. That's a beautiful testimony. Do you want to share your mission and vision with us so that the people that are listening today can hear, your heart?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you can probably already tell, and we share this with you, Karen, we are all about letting people know that they're not alone, trying to break through that isolation and provide venues for them to make sense of their experience and to find healing. And for us, we feel that if there was in time a standard of care around reproductive grief, that we would have venues for conversation, we would have professionals who would know how to assist and to help others. And I think for each of us, right, we want to know that we can turn to a family member or friend. And so we would like to be kind of an impetus to having that conversation in a safe environment, and then equipping each other so that we know how to help and support. And so that in time, we would see professionals would be receiving training, our body of research would grow so that we would have even more information to know how to be effective.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. We're going to come back to that research and educating of medical professionals and you getting into colleges and part of the curriculum. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later too. That's super exciting. Okay, Tricia, you are the clinical director of a pregnancy center in California. And so I'd like to know how you connected with Life Perspectives and what ways did you collaborate with them?
Yes, well, I stumbled into the pregnancy center world, as many people do. I started as a volunteer, and initially I just had some time, and I loved the mamas, and just really appreciated the pregnancy center world altogether. And one day, a colleague of mine who now is also an instructor for Life Perspective, she and I went to a conference, and I heard Colleen speak. And we turned to each other, and it was like this new language we had not ever experienced before, because being part of a pregnancy center, it's fantastic. It's a lovely, lovely thing. But Colleen brought into it meeting people right where they were, just right at the moment of intersection of lives. And if you've worked as we have so many times, people come up and share. The minute you even allude to the fact that you might be a safe person for someone to tell their story to, they do. And I just listened to the language, and it was transformational for me. So as I began working further in the pregnancy center world, eventually became a director and became a life perspectives instructor myself, and just started integrating all the language and the culture that comes behind it into the center. And we immediately started seeing people sooner, longer, deeper, and in just really, really precious ways that we wouldn't have been able to had our, and I really think it has a lot to do with the language that we teach, where it just breaks down, it just eliminates barriers altogether and just meets a person just smack dab where they are. So I've seen the fruit of it so many times, and it's been a really exciting journey for me.
Yeah, so you saw the value of having that training for yourself, your staff, your volunteers, and how that impacted your client interactions, right? So
Yes.
there's pregnancy centers out there watching. What would you want to say to them about the life perspectives training and the value that it could bring to their center?
Well, I often tell a story about, as I started out as a volunteer. Of course, you're trained, within your clinic or center, but at the time there was no real reproductive grief training. And I remember in one experience I had counseled 3 women in 1 week. One was pregnant with twins, and very shortly after having thought I had served them, faithfully, that all 3 chose to terminate their pregnancies, and 4 babies were lost. And even as I tell the story today, it's the second time I've told it today, actually, I get choked up because it was so impactful. I did not realize that as a helper, how that impacted me personally. That those are losses, loss for them, the moms, the loss for the dads, loss for the families. I did not know where to put it. And luckily I had a wise woman friend who kind of guided me along, but I would have stopped volunteering that day. I would have felt ineffective. I would have felt dumb, like I couldn't have helped anyone any further in time, and just a real sense of loss all the way around. And that's what I love about life perspectives, is it gives tools, simple tools, to those volunteers and staff who we start asking, when we start, it made me not afraid to ask hard questions, because then I knew how to better respond with compassion. And then as you ask better questions, you hear more about their life. And I often refer to it as like that whole woman, whole person care, because an abortion experience isn't the only part of her story. And when she's standing at the door of your clinic or center, she's not just facing an unplanned pregnancy. She's facing a crisis of her hopes, her dreams, the person she dreamed of herself as a child becoming. And we have that pledge, that just joy and honor to help companion through that with her, as we are able to incorporate those tools into our practice.
Thank you, Tricia. Thank you for your transparency and your heart. You can see it all over your face. I just love you, girl. Okay, so now we're going to shift gears just a little bit. We're going to put our guests on hold while I tell you a little bit more about support after abortion, why we're doing what we're doing, and what we're hoping to accomplish in the meantime. So we're going to now take just a couple of minutes to talk about support after abortion's mission and vision statement and our core values. So support after abortion's vision is really big. Our vision is to see the world restored from the impact of abortion. Can you imagine a world like that? Can you imagine everybody restored from their abortion wound so that they're fully healed, fully free from all that shame and regret and denial and anger? Can you imagine? The life would be changed. The world would be changed, absolutely changed. And so how we're going to accomplish that vision is by influencing the way that the world provides restoration services for men and women that have been impacted by abortion. And we're going to do that through innovation, education, and collaboration. And that's why we're holding these Facebook Lives events. We want to introduce you to the other agencies out there that are providing abortion recovery programming so that people will know where to go to find help and hope. And we're doing this in a collaborative spirit. We know that we can't do it alone. There's not one agency out there that can do this alone. So we need to link arms. We need to increase our collective capacity to help hurting people. And so what's the basis of our culture at Support After Abortion are our core values. And you can see that they spell out, maybe it's not obvious that they spell out the word hope, but the first letter of each word spells out the word hope. And the letter H is for healing. And we as staff members and volunteers are constantly pursuing our next level of healing and inviting others on the journey with us. We know that healed people are in a better position to help those that are hurting. Let me say that again. Healed people can help those that are hurting. So that's our H is healing. And O is for ownership. We walk with humility in all things and remain dedicated to personal growth. That's super important to us, that we remain teachable in our jobs. I learned something. Listen, I learn more than one thing new every day, y'all. So, being open to be able to be trained is really important to us and learn things new. And then the P in hope is for purpose. We are driven by our faith in God and have a calling to our work. Every one of us has a why behind our what at Support After Abortion. And as these weeks go on, I hope I have the opportunity to introduce you to our team on different interviews so that you can find out what the what is behind the why, what the why is, but the why is behind each of their whats. It's a great team. And then the E, which is my personal favorite, stands for excellence. We operate with a zeal for God's best, maintaining the highest level of innovation, impact, and influence. We want to set the bar really hard because of the agencies that we interact with and partner with, the people that we serve. You all matter, and we want to make sure that you are all well taken care of and that we are serving you in an excellent manner. So as just before we bring our guests back in, I'd like to, for those who have joined us later in this Facebook Live, I want to talk about the discussions that we have today and how some of that may be triggering for some of you that may have been impacted by reproductive loss and have never reached out for help. So if you are struggling right now, my team is ready to work with you right now on Facebook. We had 2 women last week who reached out on Facebook, and we immediately were able to surround them with love and compassion. Everything you say to us will be held in the strictest of confidence. You will never be judged. You will only be loved by the person that responds back to you. So if you're comfortable with that, you can reach out through Facebook right now. And if not, we have our website up here for you. It's www.supportafterabortion.com. You can go to our website and contact us that way. If you prefer to text or talk on the phone, this is our Hope line that's on the screen for you here. It's 844-289. That's 4673. 844-289-4673. And now as we invite our guests back so that we can continue on with the questions that we have for them. I see a lot of you are messaging or posting on Facebook. Thank you for watching the show today. We just really hope that you're learning a lot from our guests from Life Perspectives, Colleen Friedenberg and Tricia Lewis. So Tricia, you kind of already talked about this, the impact that reproductive grief loss had on your staff, volunteers, and training. So I'm going to pose the next question to Colleen. And Colleen, I know you started out as a website, and there's so many more things that you do today. I would just love to hear about how your organization has evolved and how you've adapted to change over time. Would you share that with us?
Yeah, no, I would love to do that. And even as I describe that, I think, I do want to say that we have big goals because we know that there are a lot of people hurting, but that's not just like a mass of faceless people. We're very conscious of always thinking about the individual, the men and the women, the family members and friends right now who may be hurting, or the health professional or family member or friend who knows someone's hurting and doesn't know how to help them, right? We see that in the stories. How do I get over this? Who's going to understand? Can I tell this to anybody? Am I allowed to grieve? Right? Those are the questions that are asked in so many different ways. And so for myself and our team at Life Perspectives, we're always thinking of those individuals whenever then we think about, strategy or where we want to go. We want to always stay really connected with each of those people. And so with the website, when we saw the number of people who were coming to the website, the things that they were sharing, it became clear to us that we wanted to offer more. And so certainly we offered written resources as well that people could do anonymously, began to offer training and resources to the pregnancy centers, moved out into community organizations, and but really had this goal of realizing that to understand there was a lack of training for mental health professionals. And even though there's some good research that's out there, there's just really not a lot. There's so much more for us to understand, and realize and recognize that if people are feeling disenfranchised in their loss, if they're feeling isolated or shamed and feel like they can't reach out, then those create problems that compound as the years and the decades go on. And so thinking of for mental health professionals, it would be, they're going to intersect with them at some point in time. Mm-hmm. And so how do we offer some training for them? And so that's where kind of our vision of reaching others began to grow. And 4 years ago, began to offer training for mental health care professionals. We quickly were accredited by both the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists and then the National Association of Social Workers, so that we could also be providing continuing education. And that allows us to broadly provide that type of training for them. With really one of the biggest things we talk about, like that safe place to start, is that your typical healthcare professional, it's never even been suggested to them that perhaps you should inquire about someone's reproductive history when you're doing their intake, and how important that would be to do it. Just in inquiring, you're already telling your client that you're acknowledging that this was a significant event in their life, something worthy about asking about and inquiring into. And in that, if we're asking sensitively, compassionately, if your client feels safe and they begin to reveal that information to you, then we can assess, is this a loss that was resolved or unresolved? If it was resolved, wow, for that therapist, right, that's great information. What support system, what coping mechanisms did they have that could potentially help them with their current situation? If it's unresolved, perhaps this loss is playing into their current difficulties that actually brought them there. So it just gives you kind of a little bit of a glimpse into that and a real change. We had there's a group of community clinics in San Diego that had asked for our help. And one of the most significant things that came out of our interaction with them is that they added one question into their intake. And so after asking if the client had any children, they asked if they had any additional pregnancies. And if there was a difference in numbers, they would ask them, would you like to tell us, like what happened? And with very open-ended, gentle questions, they would go from there. They said that in pre-adding that question in, they had about maybe 5% of their clients revealed a reproductive loss, whether that be miscarriage or abortion. Post adding that question in, it jumped to 30%. Wow. And so that for us encouraged us, and again said this training is so necessary, it's so needful. And then as we were entering in more into training the mental health professionals and doing more research of our own and healing stories, we began to recognize that part of what a mental health professional inherits, if you will, is our culture not acknowledging the loss, right? So that's already an obstacle and an impediment for individuals. But also our medical professionals often don't know how to interact. So this comes up in medical history and they just move on to the next question, rather than acknowledging and being able to engage with them. and realize that this in itself can produce hurt or impediment, even trauma to the individual, and realize, you know what, the medical professionals need help too. It's not, they do not intend to do this. They have received no training. So how can we help them to raise their level of sensitivity and give them practical, simple, but very meaningful things that they can say if a reproductive loss is revealed or occurs while they're seeing their patient. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of now, and we're accredited to provide contact hours for nurses, and we'll soon be seeking that for doctors as well. And we have found that within both of those communities, there is a hunger. They know they're ill-equipped. They know they could do more. And so they are so happy and relieved to find out that there is something they can do. And we're just delighted to be able to work with them, knowing that that sets the stage for healing early for those who they are engaged in encountering.
That's awesome, Michaeline. In a very short amount of time, you guys have accomplished a great deal. So thank you for sharing all that with us. And just so everybody out there knows, we have partnered with Life Perspectives. Our very own Amy, our clinical coordinator, has gone through their training, and she's a certified trainer herself. And we're going to talk a little bit later, but we have 3 opportunities for you to connect to training coming up through Support After Abortion. So we'll revisit that. Thank you so much. Yeah, and so, you know, these are different times. You know, we live in a virtual world now, right? Meeting in person hasn't happened in several months now, and all of us have had to really rapidly readjust, right, and figure out a different way of doing what we had always done. So I'd like to hear from you, Tricia or Michaeline. What have you guys done to still be able to offer your training and equip those healthcare providers and those students in colleges and things like that?
You tell Michaeline.
Okay. Well, you're such a big part of it, Tricia. But you're, I mean, you're absolutely right, Karen. We had, when the stay-at-home orders came down, our team rapidly, just like, I feel like just like on a dime, they just moved all of our in-person training online, and then actually made it a goal to like, well, let's just make it even more accessible. Let's offer more for others. So we saw probably one of our biggest training months was in April, and trained nurses, trained mental health professionals, trained pregnancy centers, trained community leaders who were coming on and equipping them so that they then could be that invitation to healing, and that they would also know some practical resources. So, I mean, one of the webinars that was unique that was offered, Tricia and Tanya, one of our other certified instructors, talked about like, how do we, in this virtual environment, what do we do with healing? And Tricia, you walked through our website, abortionchangesyou.com, as well as for those who suffered miscarriage, miscarriagehurts.com. So that really allowed us to expand our services and have people come. And you know what's so interesting, right? When you're in a physical location, which of course we love, we want to be there with people, but you are actually in a geographic location where throughout April, we had people come, right, from all over the country to enter in to these classroom situations that were virtual, which I think added another element of energy and learning and being able to share that. And so once we're meeting in person again, we certainly are going to be doing our in-person training, but I think for us, we feel motivated to continue to make this as accessible as possible through our virtual environment. And we've also sped up now, probably late summer, we'll be offering some courses on demand so that people could take them at any time.
That's amazing. And like you, we've had to readjust as well. And so now I'd like to take just a few minutes to let the audience know about the virtual groups that we're starting. I have already started. We have 5 of them that have started, and we are collecting a waiting list for those of you that want to reach out and register online. If you go to our website at www.supportafterabortion.com, under the resources page, you'll find all of these. But specifically right now, I want to talk to you about the 5 different courses that we have going right now, again, that you can get on a wait list for, because we're going to repeat them as soon as this session is over. We have a codependency course. We have a miscarriage loss course using Life Perspectives book. We have Unraveled Roots, which is the book that I'm a co-author on. Woo! It's so cool to be an author. I actually got to sign one of the books that we were shipping out the other day. It was surreal. And we have abortion recovery, of course. And we're also doing a sexual healing group. All 5 of these are offered to women. The miscarriage loss group we have is co-ed. And then we also have 3 of those programs for men. And you can find all of those details on our website under the resource page. And then we spoke a little bit earlier about Amy being a certified coach or certified trainer for the Life Perspectives training. And she is starting 3 groups in June. There's our little logo for that, Life Perspectives Reproductive Grief Care Training. They're going to be offered. You can find this under our website under the resource tab as well. We're starting one on June 16th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The next one is August 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. and those are all Eastern Daylight Time. And the final one for this year is October 20th from 1 to 4. So we're really excited. Amy has just been trained, has trained our staff in the last couple of weeks, and now she's raring to go to offer 3 more groups for anybody anywhere. Because like you said, Michaeline, I'm starting an after abortion virtual group this Thursday, and I have somebody from California in my group. Okay. It's super exciting how we've just the virtual realm really shrinks our geography, right? Geography really doesn't matter so much anymore. So ladies, it's about time for us to wrap up. So some last words for our guests and maybe some contact information, what you want our audience to take away from this, and then we'll close out.
Well, I just wanted to say quickly. Oh, sorry. Overlap. I don't want to wrap up entirely. I want Michaeline to do it, but I just wanted to say that we say often here that success is just being a safe place for somebody to heal, and anybody can do it, and it just takes a couple of tools. And I love what we do here so much, because through resources, education, and research, we're able to provide that for people. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Trisha. And I want to echo that. And I want to also just say, Karen, how much we love it that you include men equally. Men are so often overlooked in all of this. And we see that in the stories. They're desperate for someone to be able to share this with someone and to know they're not alone. So thank you for doing that. And we love our partnership with Support After Abortion and having Amy on board. So we know that there's so many people who are desperate for training, desperate to know the words to use. How do we create that? How are we an invitation to healing? And so we love having that collaboration there. We often think of Life Perspectives as the shallow end of the pool, right? This is a place we can invite all and we can begin that journey. And then we know that for those who want to go into the deep end of the pool, there are organizations like Support After Abortion where they can do that. So to me, it's like it's the best marriage. And then I just want to say, I'm sure there are some people who are listening who are like, oh my gosh, this is me, or this is a person that I know and that I love. And I think just to say from all of us, you're not alone. There is hope, and that there are tools and things that you can do, that you can find on both abortionchangesyou.com or traininglifeperspectives.com. Reach out to Karen, Support After Abortion. Just know that you are surrounded by a community where we want to support you, whether that's because you are the person who's in pain or maybe you're trying to help somebody who is.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. It's been a delight. So great seeing your beautiful faces, and thank you so much for all that you do to help those that are hurting.
You as well. Thank you, Karen.
Yes, thanks.
You're welcome. And so that's the end of this week's. We'll be back for episode number 3 in 1 week's time. And so again, I just want, for anybody that's out there, I want to echo what Michaeline said. If there's anybody out there that's struggling after reproductive loss, we have somebody that can talk to you right now, whether it's been a miscarriage, an abortion, a stillbirth, or you've placed for adoption or were adopted yourself. We have somebody that can help you work through those emotions right now. So you can do that either through our Facebook feed, or you can do that at our website at www.supportafterabortion.com, or you can call or text us on 844-289-4673. That spells out the word HOPE. That's 844-289-4673. And the last things that I want to leave everybody that's watching with is, you don't have to struggle alone, and you don't have to struggle at all. There is help available, and we can help you. You're not alone. We're here for you, and you matter to us. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. God bless you all.